Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Jesse Law. He's a candidate for the Clark County Republican Party chairman. That's a big deal, huh, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the guy that runs everything.
Right.
Yeah. Or tries to. But then he's got the state party chairman that's over him, you think? Or maybe not. We'll ask Jesse, but you got any rants?
No. I'm pissed off about a lot of things as usual, but
Yeah. Taxes, girls,
yeah.
Corona.
Oh yeah.
President.
That Delta variant. I can't believe they're trying to start a third wave scare already with the Delta
Corona
variant.
Yeah. I was already scared the first time. I don't need to be scared again.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. There's a lot to that.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Well, shit, let's go. I don't got nothing, actually.
Oh yeah.
Nah.
All right.
Jesse,
Steve.
how you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome, man.
Tell me about yourself.
Oh, you hit me with the hard questions first. Well,
Are you losing weight?
yeah, man.
You working out?
Yeah, I got to keep fit. You know,
Yeah.
we were talking earlier. It's better than the alternative. I remember one time you came up to me like, "Hey, Jess," patting me on my side right there where the stuff was really poking out at the time. Yeah, I like keeping fit. I like eating well. You know what I mean? But the stress on the campaign, I mean, it sure. Listen, I'm so focused on this thing. I got this tunnel vision where even food becomes little less important.
Yeah.
So I'm running this like there's no tomorrow. Like we're in it to win.
So let's get the bio out the way.
All right. When I hear people ask me that question, like, who are you? I think of my children first. I love my babies. I've got
How many babies you got?
3. I got a 17-year-old, 14-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
Wow.
My oldest son, you know, being 17, that's hard to transition as a dad. You know this, right? Because then they're becoming men, and they're a little resentful over a lot of things that they rightly should be resentful at you for, you know. But he's got
like you had some training. You went to father school.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's like, well, no, you're right. I did screw up, son, actually. My daughter, though, there's nobody that makes me smile like that little girl. Creative writer.
That's the 14-year-old.
Artist. Yeah. My youngest, he's my heart of a lion. He's on the spectrum. He's my greatest teacher.
Right.
He's also right in that zone of being little enough.
And
you
you're so much of a different father from the 17-year-old to the 9-year-old, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Completely different father. That's what I try to tell all my kids, but.
Yeah, I know. Well, that adds to like that little resentment deal, right? Like, well, Dad, what do you mean? You know, but you know, when it's your oldest and it's your first one, you're doing that thing where you're reading for 2 hours a night, right? That was what my oldest had, right? All the way up until he was like 8, you know, when the other kids were popping around. Right. But you know, I moved to Vegas for mortgages. I got married real early. Come to Vegas. I was 20.
That was the age I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty young.
The first time. Yeah.
It's hard to get right when you get married that young.
Yeah.
You know. But I came here.
I said the first time.
I heard you loud. I heard you loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I heard that.
When I moved here, it was 2005, and I don't know. I mean, I thought a lot of myself, but I came here as a mortgage guy. And I didn't know sales, right? I mean, I knew how to talk to people. That's not the same thing.
You had charisma.
I had charisma, but like, it's like level, if we're going 1 to 10, level 8 charisma, level 5 intelligence, you know, like we need to work that
Well,
out.
you can't shoot yourself in the foot completely. I mean, probably intelligence about sales, maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, the point is that was just a fun time to come here with no direction. I think that's my point. You know, you get married young, you do your career and children next. Right? I mean, all of that adding up, you start to go, what is my biggest priority? And when my daughter was being born, I was active in my church as a teacher.
Right.
I was teaching about the Constitution and liberty around the 4th of July holiday.
In church?
In church. So that was, you know, the elders quorum for the LDS ward. Right.
So are you LDS?
I was raised LDS.
Okay.
I did lose my faith, and I've regained my faith in my relationship with God. That's the most important thing to me.
It happens.
But relearning it became my own. And for that reason, I'm a grateful son of God for having that. But so the reason why I brought all that up in terms of moving here and not knowing what I'm doing, when my daughter was in her mama's belly, it became important to me to fight for their freedom, because I valued what God bestowed on us with our liberty. I valued our country and what, the magnificent gift it would be to be the greatest country in the world. Well, we're free. People flock to us for our freedom. So I got involved, and I think that's around the time I met you. I would have met you a year later, in 2007, when I went to the CCRP. Yeah. And, you're sort of a towering figure in that room, right? I mean...
This is 2007 we met?
Yeah.
And that was probably around the same year I met Jim.
Yeah.
About that year, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. And you guys started your show right after, was it 2009?
I started the show in 05.
Did you? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh. Veterans of radio.
Veterans in politics in 05.
But I mean, that's a little bit about my past. That's how I got into politics. I've maintained mortgage licensing mostly throughout that. I've been a mortgage originator for 16 years. And
you're not a realtor?
No.
Okay.
No, but we do VA loans.
So you do the loans.
We're low VA rates. And the reason why it was like that, I mean, it was just like, you do what you know. There's such a great program on the VA Streamline that helps veterans, like if their loan, improves enough per the VA's rules, you don't have to do an appraisal or recheck it.
Yeah, I got a question about the VA loan. I mean, this is off topic, but since you brought it up, does FICO score matters with VA loans?
Technically not. So this is a complicated answer. The VA doesn't have a FICO requirement. Lenders do. So what you find is there are opportunities where some lenders will go down with no score on it. I have a gentleman who was unemployed after getting out of service for about 6 months. So he was living off credit cards. Finally, it added up and he missed a couple payments. I do have a Streamline refinance I'm doing for him right now because I have a lender. We normally bank it ourselves. This lender we have a partnership with. They'll allow even late payments on there. So, I mean, there are opportunities, but see, the VA doesn't have that guideline, which means then lenders get to make the decision based on other compensating factors. How much they have in equity? Like, how stable are they now? So yeah, actually, we can get a lot done. The VA's the best. I don't know why realtors tend to give the VA loan a hard time. It's the best loan. So.
All right, so I wanna talk about why we're here.
Okay.
The Republican Party that you're trying to be the leadership of in Clark County. And I know many years ago, I served on the Clark County Executive Board, myself and Jim Jonas.
Yeah.
And that was fun times.
Those were fun times.
I was also the Clark County Republican Party's person to do the invocation.
Oh.
So I was their chaplain. John Hambrick, the past chairman, made me that official chaplain person for the party.
That's cool.
And since I've been involved in veterans and politics for so long, we're nonpartisan, so we welcome all parties. So I stay away from the Clark County Republican Party. I mean, I go, but I don't go. I go, but I don't go. And I go to the meetings, but I'm not really involved like I used to be back in the day.
Right.
And because we want to welcome all parties and the veterans in politics. And then I did a whole survey of what I am, because I wanted to make sure, if I'm a registered Republican, I want to make sure that's what I am. So I did a survey of what domestic issues, abortion, immigration, strength of the military, taxes. I found out I'm more conservative than I am not.
Right.
So that's why I stayed in the Republican Party, and that's why I'm still registered as a Republican, although we welcome everybody, and we got so many different parties in the organization. So, but anyways, and the reason why I brought that up is so the listeners can know that I am not biased. I want to be open with this interview, and I want to make sure that you get to say everything you need to say about what's going on with the party, where the party is today, and how you could build a party and get more people involved in politics. It doesn't even matter what party affiliation they are. I just want to see people involved in the political cycle, which is not happening. And as a party chairman, you're able to open up the doors and welcome people in the party and to show people that, that we are a party of unity. We want to welcome you to come in, know the candidates and get involved in the process and pick the leadership, whether it's a county chairman or a Clark County Commission or a governor or the president of the United States. So I want you to kind of tell people your platform, what your vision of the Republican Party is, and how you're going to welcome people to come in and help strengthen the party and build a better America.
Thanks, Steve, for the tee up. I'm just thinking about everything that I've sort of examined with the issues at the organization, why there are issues, what the nature of the problem is so that we can actually solve it. Right. I think the organization itself, it's lost its institutional memory as to why it exists. It exists.
That's so true.
This isn't me. If you did the survey of the members, they exist for these meetings. So what I say is the sport for that organization is actually going to these meetings and getting to the end of the meetings and fighting at the meeting. But see, everybody else that's there is actually there to hopefully do something that would be in its mission statement, like say, win an election for Republicans, defeat a Democrat in an election. And so I think most of the members are saying, excuse me, why am I here? It's like a crisis of what the purpose is. And I can say that, since the days of John Hambrick, Richard Scotty, who's a wonderful man,
Bernie
Zadrowski, who was a good leader. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was pretty well understood that there was, the direction was elect Republicans, defeat Democrats. I've seen it devolve to the point where we are at now, where in the last election cycle, the priority was placed on inter-party rivalry as opposed to defeating Biden. Maybe there's an assembly district in Henderson I like to pick on, 29. That thing should be red right now. It's Green Valley. The guy lost by 150 votes. What that really represents, if the party actually had a priority of training up its precinct organization and making assignments, that would have been like 10 precincts with 8 people. Because if those 8 people who voted anyway just flipped their votes, we would have had a Republican in that spot. And then we have April Becker, whose district might have touched nearly to here, but it was close, 6, right? She lost by 600 votes. What does that represent? It's kind of the same thing. Find 300 voters in 30 precincts or something like that.
You know what pisses me off sometimes when individuals join parties, they do it to use it as a tool for their self-interest, for them to get elected to a position of authority. Judge or assembly or state senate. They weren't with the party from the beginning. They just come in when they're ready to run for an election. And that part pisses me off because I feel that if you are true to yourself and you're true to make your community better, you should have been with it a long time ago, thick and thin. And then if the opportunity comes to run for a seat, then yeah, by all means, go for it. But when they use it, it's like a kid, a son, who's never seen his dad, but only calls his dad when he needs money. So that's how I look at some of these candidates when they come into the party. They use it to skyrocket their personal interests to become elected. And that part I really don't like.
I get that too. I think there's a human nature element that gravitates us to that. So how do you overcome it? Because honestly, I get a lot, well, what are we doing for the Hispanic and Latino or African American or Asian American or veteran? And those communities, if they're going to be talked to, say, August of an election year, like they ever mattered in the, I mean, they're going to be offended.
Right.
So we really have to reprioritize what kind of people we want to be too. Because I'm not going to be the guy that goes and knocks a door in a community that I'm going to feel like I'm using them. I mean, we have to be the ball. And it's true, like there's a human nature element though. And so I agree with you 100%. It is offensive. How do we escape it? Because also, in addition to people being a little gross when they're making it about themselves, they also do kind of care about the other things too. What's been missing in these things? Vision and leadership. Vision and leadership. Every single time bad behavior comes around because there's no vision, there's no plan, there's no leadership. They exist for the sake of meetings. The new sport is to defeat each other. And you know what? That ain't fun anymore, right? So what can we do that's different? Look, I've done this professionally. I mean, I got off the couch in 6, met you in 7. 2010, I had my first paying gig. I was so proud. But it was just doors and phones. And,
right.
I even helped a lady with her campaign, never doing it before, and I did a good job, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right?
But is this the party of unity when there's so much infighting? No. There's so much infighting, and there's so much personal interest and bias that if you don't agree with X, Y, and Z, then you're the enemy. I mean, what happened to the party of unity and the party of let's sit at the table and talk about our differences and try to find a happy compromise to elevate, in this case, the Republican Party and make it stronger instead of ostracizing people and pushing people to the side? And how come they don't really sit down and bring in the Black Americans and bring in the brown Americans and bring in the Asian Americans?
It's a lack.
Why is it? Why are people? There's many people look at the Republican Party as an old man white group. I mean, where is the rainbow color? Where are all those fighting veterans that served in Vietnam, then the Gulf War and Afghanistan, and those young scholars at UNLV Law School, and all those young people that are starving to be involved in something, that really have a vision and a focus of their own. And if you collaborate and put them together, you can make a really, really strong party. But they're too interested in their self-serving bias that's disruptive and it's just adding gasoline to the fire. And it's just, people don't want that shit. They got enough drama in their household. They don't want to walk into a Republican Party meeting and have more drama.
That drama, I was thinking about this, all right? Instead of thinking of each other like enemy or monster, because by the way, in my race, that's kind of what everyone's wanting to make it about, enemy and monster. Maybe we should start thinking of each other, now, hold on, this is sort of a unique idea, as Republicans, right? And I want to start doing that. But if you think about what's happening in Cuba right now, family members are passing away in the hospitals, or however, but there are no coffins. So now the family, the loved ones are told, come get your loved one. We've wrapped them in a sheet. And they're now parading their deceased loved ones down the road, not knowing, how to dispose of the body. How do you take care of someone that you love and no coffin and all that? See, that's the result of what the real enemy is. That's democratic socialism. That's communism. And the people in power right now in our state that are on the other party, they celebrate communism. But what's happening in Cuba is a direct result of that. That's the enemy, not the fellow Republican. We just need to keep our eye on that goal. But see, that requires, imagine, I know you're passionate. You've dedicated your life to service this way and in other ways. There are folks that at least show up because they are passionate about the end result. If they have all that passion, but it's not directed in any kind of meaningful way, where are they going to turn it? So the whole point is it's a dearth of leadership. And so that's what I want to bring to it. The truth is, I was considering running for something. And now that I'm running for a party, I probably will never be able to run for something because of the way that we treat each other, right? But I knew that if I ran a race that touched the county of Clark in any way, and the priority of the county of Clark would be defeating other Republicans as opposed to the Democrats, I'd lose. That would mean guys like Joe Lombardo, John Lee, whomever gets to the governor past the primary, those guys will lose. And then what? We're going to carry forward more democratic socialism, and then the rest of the state, the country, if there was a red wave, would look at Nevada and be like, what'd you guys do wrong? If I had a front row seat to what we did wrong, and I did nothing about it, shame on me. So I knew that somebody had to have big shoulders, because they're going to make all the accusations that they can, try to not make it about what we could actually do next year. And I took it seriously. And I don't want to be looking at my voters and being full of shit.
You know, Jim Jones ran for the party chairman's seat a long time ago.
I mean, you're picking off some memory banks. I'm having a tough time crystallizing it.
He ran when Judge Richard Scotti. He ran against him and Dave McGowan. He bowed out at that time, and he came real close. And what he was talking about was the corruption within the party, right? And he was bringing that to light. And people don't want to hear that. That's right. Because you have an executive board that's supposed to rule on the finances of the party, and then you have people behind the scenes that was, pushing the chairman to do something else that and not take a look at the voted members to vote for different things within the party, especially when you're dealing with money. And we were trying to get a forensic audit of the monies within the party, and nobody wanted a forensic audit. And you got to ask yourself, why the hell nobody wants to know where the damn money is coming from and where the money is going?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring it up. I mean, everything kind of comes full circle, but I have to tell you, in those days, it was nothing, okay? Right now, there are 2 FEC violations for the Clark County Republican Party that have gone unanswered.
Tell us about them.
Well, look, I'm certainly not an accountant. However, when they show that their donations are something like, let's just throw out a number, $50,000. But then they show that their expenditures are $150,000. That tends to piss off the FEC. And that has happened.
And then where's the other 100,000 coming from?
We'd like to know. I was told by a candidate, and I'm going to just say this because it can be researched through a forensic audit. Lincoln Day dinner. Candidate gives $5,000 for a table. Secretary of State report, FEC report, whomever they were covering for that specific event, shows a $1,500 donation from the total of the event. Whoa. So they have the teachers union as the largest donor in the year 2020. That's rather unusual given that they have teachers union. They have teacher union lobbyists who are on the board right now as an acting secretary. The people who are trying to take me on are also former teachers union lobbyists. It's very strange. It's very strange. But when there's not that lack of accountability, I've not run on that. I've actually run on the vision. Because you know what? I was in Mesquite like yesterday, not even talking to voting members. These were people who were so left out of the loop, who were rejected from joining the organization, had no good idea why. They were so angry. I took a team of us who were on the slate. We went up there just to talk. And when we started talking about the dirty laundry, it was apparent. All of them started going, oh, I don't know if I want anything to do with this. When I started talking about the vision, they're all like, this is actually great. And I said, do you see what we just did here? We just proved a point. The problem is, when we've got all of these problems that have to be resolved, it pushes everyone away. Having appropriate leadership, behavior, dignity, honesty. Let's try honesty. All of a sudden, we can kick ass as opposed to beat each other's throats, focus on the negative and all of that. Nevertheless, it is a serious problem. I'm not campaigning on a forensic audit. Believe it, we're doing a forensic audit. believe it. Christine DeCourt's our treasurer candidate. She's got a Series 7 license. First thing out of her mouth when I bring it up to her, she says, Jesse, I have to do everything like by the book and open. And I said, Chris, obviously.
Transparency.
But she says, but my license depends on it. I said, obviously. If what I'm really doing in this race is actually contrasting to what has been, and I'm going to come in there with expertise. I did 2 years in the administration as a senior White House official. I was in the presidential transition team vetting secretary-level cabinet-level people.
You should have brought that up in your bio.
Well, the thing is, I'm so long-winded that you eventually, it wears you down, and you're like, we don't want to hear anymore.
But since there's so much infighting with the Republicans and with the Democrats, right? The other two parties out there, which is the Libertarians and the Independent American Party, they should get their forces all ready and try to become the major party because of all this infighting and backstabbing that these parties, offer their members. That's what you get when you join. You get infighting and you get backstabbing and you get all kinds of bullshit that you really don't need.
Steve, you've done this for a long time. I've done this for a long time. I think the only difference between you and I is you serve your community your way, and it's beautiful, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like seeing your updates, especially as you are holding folks accountable that need to be held accountable. Thank you. I've served our community, and the way I've done it was learning the craft of politics, understanding party politics, understanding grassroots dynamics. 11 years, 10,000 hours. I have some version of expertise. It doesn't mean I'm always right. However, when you talk about the third parties, when you talk about the infighting in the Democrats, infighting the Republicans, it is natural in a grassroots setting that these things happen. So there is actually a formula to get ahead, and it begins with as a leader, and this is in my DNA, this is how my dad taught me. He led a junior college in the middle of Kansas with an 8,000 person population in the county, and they're winning national championships. Very political. He said, Jesse, when you have leadership and agency over other people's lives, your behavior now becomes a different thing. It's about something bigger than you, and your behavior as an example unto them, it sets the tone. So priority one for me is that I have to have this position be bigger than I am, because I'm actually completely capable of screwing up, right? Just a human. But dignity, honesty, respect, transparency, normal things. But that on its own doesn't work. Providing purpose for everybody showing up, so that they're not going to have any of their passion then misplaced onto each other. And if we provide appropriate vision with that purpose on things that they can do that's within their control, we train them up, we make it a professional organization. That's the thing. I come around advertising myself on this Victory 22 red wave. Y'all, I posted last night, y'all want a red wave? I'm not overpromising. I'm not the guy that gives them the red wave. I believe in them. I believe that if given the right direction, training, and path and plan, I believe in them. Because if a red wave was even possible next year, what's within our control? That's what I'm talking about. Red wave, because we have a plan, we pull everybody together in a united front. I don't want just a certain kind of Republican. You know why the president, in his reelection, got more votes as an incumbent and then picked up, House seats across the country too, but he picked up more votes as an incumbent than anyone in the history. Why? It wasn't because, he was a moderate. We all know he wasn't. He had America First principles. He had policies that were bringing in walkaway Democrats, minority voters, exciting base, blue-collar, formerly Democrat working families, right? Everyone's coming to his side because these were policies that worked. That inspired new voters. I want all types of people who are inspired by those great principles to come onto our side and go ahead and vote in the general election. If we walk around and start saying that we need to be moderates, what does that really mean? We're watered down. We're not exciting. We're apologizing for who we are.
And plus, I haven't heard the party really take a stand on anything that's going on. I mean, usually back in the day, the party used to be in the news, or at least the party chairman used to be in the news, take a stand on X, Y, and Z, what's going on with the country. There's nobody taking stands on anything.
My brother.
Why even have a party if you don't have a backbone to take a stand on stuff?
When I saw a press conference with the RJ, I guess it would have been May the 24th, wherein they named people specifically called them anti-Semitic terrorists. Why did they say terrorists? Because they called the Las Vegas Metro Terrorism Division, and they had to cancel the 25th meeting with no evidence, right? And the problem is they use such scary language and visuals about them being anti-Semites. First of all, I don't want anyone violent. I don't want anyone racist. I'm repulsed, as anyone should be. The problem is the people that they picked. One woman's a practicing Jew with real life consequences after being called out. So you want to say that we're not in the news? No. This administration, who then recruited my opponent, by the way, and she's committed to keep them around, by the way, they were in the news, dropping a nuclear bomb on our party, saying that somehow these racist and violent people were coming in with no evidence and with real consequences to real people. And then those 400 people who tried to join, you're one of them. You know, they were left out. They're not allowed to join now because of that action.
They take a stand to go after their own, but they don't take a stand on issues that are going on, like the issue in Cuba that's going on right now.
That's right.
You know, there are issues that's going on in the Middle East, and there are issues that's going on within our own country. I don't see them taking a stand on those type of issues, but they take a stand to wipe out their own. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, we're seeing, and I could say, oh, these are evil people.
Well, wait, hold on. Did you say that? What did you say that they got rid of 400 people?
Yeah, I can explain that. I just want to, before I explain that, I'll just briefly say.
Including me?
Including you, including you. I'll just briefly say, I could call them evil people. And there are certainly some decisions that were immoral. But they're also not knowing what the heck they're doing. So I think really the choice in this race is, do you want somebody who's a professional who knows what they're doing to turn it around, or do you just want to kind of continue what you've already had? But so here's what happened. They didn't hold a meeting for a year except for in the month of November. Previously, bylaws at the time of a few years ago where you have to attend 2 meetings. So you show up at meeting 1, show up at meeting 2, you can be a member. No members were added in November, right? Because there was no one to add. So when people were going to show up in May, they all signed up 30 days in advance of this meeting online, because bylaws had been changed in 2019 to allow that the first action is to sign up 30 days in advance of the meeting. The second action is to show up to that meeting and you're on the consent agenda. How do I know that that was the interpretation of actually new bylaws for membership that were passed in 2019? That's very important. Because they added 60 people to the meeting call in May, who I know signed up online. Steve Sanson actually signed up online, was added to that membership resolution for May. There were 430 other people that I'm aware of. Why? Because I'm weird and I get people's names when they do this stuff. That I'm aware of that signed up in the same exact way, who were rejected and told in the news it was a Proud Boy racist takeover, which, by the way, scared normal Republicans. They actually believed it and were scared of it. And it wasn't true, because the people signing up included these Filipinos, 60 of them or so, Filipino Americans, immigrants, now Republicans, loving, patriotic, conservative, dedicated, great people. They were rejected, but they signed up just like you. So when they called the July meeting with the membership resolution, they pulled your name off. We caught them adding 60 people.
Why?
Because now they're taking the interpretation that, no, what the bylaws actually say is you have to attend in person, not sign up online. They went back on it because I caught them. I caught them adding 60 people, and I loved the 60 people. These are all actually people caught in the middle and now are offended.
So they add 60 of their people, but they got rid of 400
of regular Republicans who have hurt feelings.
Because they feel that they won't vote their way?
Actually, there are quotes about this. In fact, my opponent was told by the political director, or so I'm told, that when she said, hey, I have people that weren't included on this list, why is that? Don't worry, the people we're letting in will elect you, is the quote. It's disgusting.
That's not how.
That's hearsay.
That's not
but
how
it
it's
happened.
supposed to be. They're
No,
supposed to
I
be
know.
elected in.
And then, when those guys were sued, that guy decided to resign because he knew he had liability on this issue.
Because if you're going to start elect people in, you're electing people based on your own personal agenda.
That is precisely it. So look, how do you solve that problem? Because I don't want to go to those 400 people and alienate them more. We run the risk of these guys actually changing party registration.
Exactly.
We run the risk of these guys never being our volunteers or even voting against us. All right?
Exactly.
And I want a big I'm gonna do a Trump impression. I want a big, beautiful organization. All right. I want as many people as possible. Why? It's an opportunity, man. Why don't we train folks, give them some purpose in that precinct level? Just picking on one of the pillars that I have. Let's put them in the precincts. Mm-hmm. Let's have them be trained. Not just here's your materials, bye. Let's give them things that they can do for voter registration of new neighbors moving in their precinct. Let's give them a door-to-door opportunity of identifying the swing voters through surveys and actually giving them purpose each month. I want a year from today, 1,000 of those guys fully trained, a year from today. That's not, by the election, we can double that. If we get 1,000 by now, we can get 2,000 by the election, right? That's the kind of thing that these members are hungry for. And we have 400 of them who are banging at the door saying, but we've tried since November to join and y'all won't let us, right? So it is a problem. And look, They picked on
the qualifications. You got to be a registered Republican. That's the.
It's in the bylaws. It says registered Republican. Second qualification, opening in your precinct. By that standard and with NRS, they're going to be up to 8,300 members of this organization. 8,300. Right now they've got maybe, it depends on their math, because I think they're probably adding members behind the scenes onto their rolls. But they could have as many as 327 right now. So we can eclipse that with something like 20 times that if we really wanted to. Now that's a different problem. Big organizations can still be volatile, but that's the kind of force that it's going to take on the Democrats. Of course that's what we should do.
So what do you guys do about fundraising, and especially now since that the major fundraiser was Sheldon Adelson, and God bless his soul. What are you guys going to do about fundraising?
So here's the good news. I mean, and God bless, God rest his soul. On the finance committee for the state party, the finance chairman is Mr. Don Ahern. The finance director is Mr. Rich McDonald. If you've been in Henderson, you've seen his work.
on the
state. But see, this is a uniting with big donors that hasn't really happened. And I think what I'm really asking for people, if they're voting members, I'm asking in this race, well, Kyle, we tried the division where the county and the state don't get along for a few years. Didn't really work out, actually. Maybe we should try something new. Here's an idea. Why don't we just go the same direction? Let's just try it. And I'll tell you what, if it's not good, you'll know, and you'll bring these other guys back in. They'll be here, right? They'll want to do that. My point in bringing up those donors and going one direction, this is an opportunity for us to multiply that out. But I have committed in my race on something that no one does. Getting the donor lists and cold calling and having metrics every single month that I'm accountable for, so that I'm calling these donors and reintroducing our organization. And hell, if 100 calls results in 5 people donating $250 and I did that in a week, well, this is something that has never been done for 15, 18 years on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And getting if you worked with candidates, getting them to call donors and ask for money is terrible. The good news is I'm completely shameless. And I'm going to have a good work product. I'm going to have hundreds and maybe thousands of people who are going one direction. And these guys are going to have something to believe in.
Another thing that bugs me with the party is that when people are running for a seat and they're all registered Republican, they kind of pick and choose who they want to help out, as far as who they want to give the donor number, the phone numbers to, or so they could do robocalls, or who they're going to put the leaflets in when they do the grassroots and do door hangers and stuff like that. How come they just don't try to help everybody out in the primary? And the better person wins, and then put your full support into whoever is in the general election. How come they don't do that?
I mean, I think that's worth a discussion to figure out the right way to do it. Because I can tell you a dilemma would be, we have a trained precinct force, and let's say there are 3 people in the primary for governor. What are we doing? Are we bringing around all 3? And then they have 3 people for U.S. Senate, and then they have 3 people, and it's all the same walker, going like this here. So we have to figure out a right process so it's realistic. I hear you. What won't happen with me, because it's highly offensive, is that there's just this attitude of a clique that you're not a part of candidate. I've heard it too many times for me to feel good, like I would want to be a part of that, right? It breeds a lot of resentment, and then there's a counterbalance to it, like what's going on in Washoe. That county during the last election cycle wouldn't even put a picture of the president in their offices, let alone his signs or any of his materials. There's some never Trump mother effers, right? And then the Vice is running against Chairman McDonald for the state. Okay, cool. But we had to open up a whole other office for the Trump organization because y'all wouldn't even put up the president's picture. So don't walk around here around our state acting like you're the newfound conservative guy. My point is that's a counterbalance. If we're excluding certain people,
and they want to know why we can't win or why the party can't win elections, right?
I say it a nice way when I say last election cycle we prioritized inter-party rivalry. No, the truth is those guys actually did that to the president. That's the truth. And it's sick because they walk around pompous like there's something great about that decision. It alienates Republicans. It makes them not believe in the party process. They become independents, and then 5 years later when I'm at their door, they're saying, you know, I'd be a Republican, but that county party didn't put a picture of my president up there. That happens all the time. So I'm with you because actually what you just described would result in the same thing. Maltreatment is maltreatment. It's disrespect. I want to lead with respect.
Describe a Republican for people that are just tuning in. What's a Republican?
You know, anymore, a Republican is starting to mean more to me. Because see, back in the day, and when I really started, I was a libertarian type of person. Small L, big R, right? Small L libertarian, but I'm a Republican. Because they closely resemble libertarianism. When we have the opposite side being so egregious, meaning the other party, with shutdown, mask mandates, businesses closing, vaccine mandates, it looks like that they're coming, schools closing, on it. I mean, it's like an encroachment of big state into lives that make people go, I didn't want to pay any attention and now I have to. The Republican has become, especially under the Trump America First policies, has become sort of a beacon for restoring American values. We can go and define it on policy base, issue by issue, and we can say it's strong national defense, personal liberty, states' rights, those kinds of things, but those are just general. If we followed the mantle of our former titular head, who's still our titular head, President Trump, on those policies, those are wide-reaching solutions. And see, here's what I do believe about being a Republican. It's focusing on really great solutions for our society. And here's what I think about what the Democrats are doing. Nitpicking and finding little ways to encroach to cause justice that never really needed to be caused, an overreach into people's personal lives, and a complete abandonment of their duty, especially when it comes to education. A failure in education, not just because they close the schools, a failure in education because they overteach the wrong priorities, right? And so I think that it's like big state on the left, personal freedom on the right at this point, and I think that society, it's becoming more important. If I went door to door as a libertarian who supported Ron Paul or something 15 years ago, I'd say, someday, and I believe this at the time, the health department's going to shut down your restaurant if you don't make people wear a mask. They'd be like, okay, so you're a crazy person, right? And then it happened, right? And so I'm over here going, it's not so crazy now, right? Those are situations where I sort of saw it as a tip of the spear, right? And a lot of others, it wasn't just me. But that's a trailblazer. It's not easy to be a trailblazer. As the government encroaches continually, people are starting to pay attention for different reasons. Big state is now a problem. It is a problem. So the Republicans better be that solution. And focusing on America First policies as opposed to, I'm going to say it nice, inter-party rivalry is how we get there. I don't want to hear another word about, well, we need more moderate Republicans. I understand the sentiment. I want all Republicans, though.
Instead of always addressing issues that they don't agree on, why don't they just start addressing issues that they do agree on?
Thank you. First of all, that's the most persuasive, right? In the art of persuasion, which is all this stuff is. We focus on the things that we agree.
How many candidates are in this race for party chairman?
We have 3 others.
You don't need to name their names. I just want to know. Just 3.
Yeah. There's 4 of us total.
And how do you differ from them?
I can tell you that, my resume is a professional one for 11 years. I have the most party experience in both leadership and as an activist compared to the others. I do have the connections for national donors who give a damn about what happens in our state on many issues.
And you got the endorsement of Donald Trump, right?
Donald Trump endorsed the Nevada Trump victory slate, and I'm a member of that slate.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I got Matt Schlapp, who's the CPAC guy. He's on the news. He's a friend. He was with the Election Day operations when I was running that for the president here in the fall. And some really, really great people. Bernie Carrick, the 9/11 police commissioner, who was also lead fraud investigator. He was sort of my boss at that time after the election. He was lead fraud investigator for the president. And he came out and said some amazing things and has thrown his support at me. And I am appreciative. I have some big names, but see, that's because the hard work that I've invested and I've changed my life for. I'm a party guy, all right? I'm gonna go, I want to represent my peers and my friends in that organization going forward. And I think I got the guts to do it.
Steve? You got some questions, right?
I mean, not really. I'll just say it. I think the county party's a joke. In 2008, when my brother ran, I saw that inner thing going on. And being invested because it was my brother and we are super tight. We don't just look alike. We actually are really tight. Probably my best friend, right? So I saw that happen.
I thought I was your best friend.
Sorry,
Well,
Steve.
But yeah, so I didn't like it. I honestly didn't like libertarians at the time and Ron Paul supporters because like when I participated in the caucus, okay, so I thought we were there to pick delegates based on who was loyal to the party. No, it was a pissing match. It was seriously, in the room, it was at Western High School. The classroom was libertarians, everyone else, they just all picked each other. And then we know what happened when they actually went to the state to cast their votes. They thought it was a free-for-all. They didn't realize that they were there with a certain task. So I had a sour taste in my mouth for that. So with your accomplishments and your vision, and I like what I'm hearing, why the county? Why not something else?
You know, it's a weird thing. I can tell you this. I've had some unique experiences that are amazing, and I've had some unique experiences that are heart-wrenching. And I like to joke, the way I like to say it is, I can tell you that God has blessed me with an abundance of luck. And sometimes it's really good luck. And sometimes it's not good luck at all. Those experiences have sort of, like a refiner's fire, right? They put me into a humble state of reliance on, and that's where I'm at. The most important thing I have is my relationship to God. So, as it came to this year, I know I'm capable of screwing up. So my prayer to God was, I'm all dressed up with no place to go. I happen to know if I make a decision based on my own, I'll make the wrong one. So what is it that you can reveal? I really wanted it to be something like Secretary of State because I worked the election fraud issue for the president. It matters to me. I also don't want to alienate voters by talking weird about it. It's a big deal. I thought, and I can still do, things like a ballot initiative for voter ID. I can still do that. But when I saw others and I saw injustice, it's no different than I've ever been. When I see injustice, you better believe it. When I saw the injustice of other people being maligned and accused of things that they couldn't defend and hated and feared, and they were just normal people, I was reluctant to admit it, but I was praying about it. And I'm not saying that God called me, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying my prayer to God was, can you help show me my path so I don't screw it up? Right. And I was motivated by the fact that there was injustice. And then when I saw, Jess, if you were going to really run or do anything politically and it touched Clark, you'd be in trouble. I then got excited about the opportunity that exists. Duly noted on the county party being at the level it is. It's not unique to Clark. Every county party in the country pretty much resembles this. They may follow bylaws a little better than they do here in those other places. But see, actually, this is an opportunity, actually. Because it's 70% of the state's population nearly. That voting, we're not even touching it in any meaningful way. What if we did? Holy smokes. What if, like, I've had a front row view to what happens at the state party. I know what they're not going to do. I know what they can't do well. I know what the county party fundamentally is. Grassroots. That's my training. I got 1,000 people. Those guys are begging to beat Democrats. And I'm sick of them, meaning all of our voters and all of our activists, having broken hearts and not knowing why. A lot of folks will show up going, I'm here. What do we do? And that's what all of this is. What do we do? And look, this is a little fun time to kind of stretch a little bit. I mean, I have this expertise on it, you know? I know it's going to be hard. I don't want to overpromise. First of all, the county party is not the answer for everything. Holy smokes, it's not. Like, let's not oversell something, right? This isn't even a Cadillac, right? Let's not pretend, all right? But, you know, just going back to the fundamentals and respecting people who show up and then giving new people who show up a reason to show up, that's how you keep them. That gives them something to be proud of. I want to be a part of that.
Very well said. I haven't heard it put that way before. So, is there anything that we haven't addressed that you think that we should?
First of all, I'm looking forward to going to Cowabunga Bay with my youngest here.
And we're holding you up.
No, this has been enriching, so thank you. I can say that what people who oppose me or are suspicious of me about, they've made me into some sort of, they've objectified me into some sort of an enemy, or they've said, oh, he's just this from the state party. No, I'm a human guy who literally is like your brother or cousin or coworker who passionately loves the 45th President of the United States like you. Had unique experiences. Let's go ahead and treat me like a Republican just like I'm going to treat you. And once we get past that, I just think it's important that we look at, are there qualifications here? Yeah, there are. Is there vision here? Yes, there is. Is there understanding? Is there understanding of what's happening? Yes, there is. And I will say that probably the biggest question I get is a misunderstanding. Well, if you're connected to the state chairman and there's a rivalry between the county and the state, how are you not going to further that problem by being associated with the state? Look.
There shouldn't be a rivalry.
Yeah, I know. That blows my mind,
It's
too,
it's a contradiction in statements. It's like, okay,
There
so
should be unity.
so here's my plan that we actually unite. Here's your plan that you keep the rivalry until you win or something? Like, and by the way, good job with last year doing it that way.
State police versus local cop.
But I want to say that I think it's a fair question to go, well, is this a state party takeover? It's unfair, but it's fine. It's fair. It's valid because that's what they're feeling, and I'm going to validate that that's what they feel. Here's the thing. If I'm being hired for a job to lay down for it, A, that sounds like a terrible time. B, I'm not looking people in the eyes, telling them I actually care about something, and then just phoning it in. This is an opportunity for me too. This is a big challenge. This is like a startup or a turnaround of some organization that's been in disarray forever, that's culturally in disarray, culturally, generationally, cycle after cycle, in bad behavior. That's a huge challenge. I'm kind of excited by it. You know, what if we do cool principles? What happens then? And the thing is, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to overpromise that I'm the red wave. They are. I actually do believe in these people. Why? Because they keep showing up. Why? Because they're begging for something to show up to that's worth it.
Just trying to make our community, our state, and our country a better place in our own little way.
Yeah.
You know, and people shouldn't push you off the table because that's what you're trying to do, because you don't agree with them.
And here's the worst part. I actually do.
Isn't that what America is all about? Different visions, different personalities, different perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to be a communist country, then or we should go there and live in a country of dictatorship.
Yeah, Steve, I can tell you one thing that's a big difference. You said, what's the difference between you and your opponents? I can tell you one thing. To the main opponent, I made a decision that if I wanted to unify a bunch of people, I have to actually behave that way while I'm campaigning. If I come across as some jerk who's like being all negative toward the other person, putting them down or whatever, then I'm not going to be that unifier, am I? My opponent was willing to absolutely attack me in a rather strange and bizarre, like creepy, personal way on Facebook. I'm not going to be that guy. And so these other folks who have these disagreements with me or whatever, actually we agree, only the difference is I'm not going to sink down to your level and like dignify your strange attacks. You know?
You know, my vision of a party chairman is, number one, a unifier. You got to be able to bring people together. You got to be able to bring people together from all walks of life. Okay? You got to be able to bring people together from all financial backgrounds. You got to be able to bring people together within your party that you don't agree with. Work on the issues that you do agree with and make them stronger. You got to be able to take a stand on different positions or different world or community events that's going to further the party. You got to make a clear and present authority on what the Republican Party is. Keep educating people on what the Republican Party is so they will understand. You have to have an educational forum, because I think that's lacking, because a lot of people don't know what the damn Republican Party is. A lot of people just don't know. And if you want to bring in new and fresh blood, you have to constantly educate people and constantly bring in that new and fresh blood. You know, I remember Ken Wagner, when he ran for Congress.
Which time?
I don't know.
You gotta.
I don't know. When he was running against Shelley Berkeley in the general election, and you know, the party was totally against Ken Wagner. They were against him. They were putting up all different people just because they didn't like Ken Wagner. They didn't like his philosophy. And Ken Wagner's an outstanding guy, and he's a true American. All right? Veteran, fought, private operations, whatever. But that's what he was. He was that guy, okay? He was a true American. But they didn't like him because of different stands he took, whatever. But Ken Wagner, this is what I told him. Ken Wagner was always going to different places like secure borders, and because he believed in a strong America, and he believed in border control and immigration policy, strong in immigration. And he was always going to these things, right? And I'm like, Ken, why you always the National Rifle Association, and he's a big gun guy. And I said, Ken, why you always go to these places? You already got their vote. You're gonna get their vote. You're good. Why you keep going there? Go to the LGBTQ community. Go to those other places that you know they're not gonna embrace you. Go over there and win the minds and souls of those folks, right? Because that's the only way you're gonna win. You have to step out of your box and go somewhere else. And a party chairman, that's what that person, or chairwoman, that's what that person needs to do. Come out of their box, bring in new blood, and make the party stronger. And know how to fundraise, and know how to grassroots, and know how to do different type of help candidates to win elections by knowing how to do different type of geofencing and all those different Facebook and social media and all those different things. A party chairman needs to know how to do all those things. And most importantly, a party chairman needs to know how to lead. And if you can't lead, you need to sit down and shut up. And I think that's what makes a great party chairman, you know. unify, leadership, knowledge, And what do you think?
No, I mean you're nailing it. Stepping out into the other areas is the only way to really bring people in. I do think that there's a nuance there that some folks who justify their bad votes, by the way, will call it you need to be more moderate in order to win. Why don't you come in with the best ideas and step out into places you ain't comfortable?
Do you know how many conservatives are in the LGBTQ community? There's a lot of them.
Well, I don't know the exact number, but yeah,
but there's a lot of them.
I have a friend that is getting attacked. He now is getting attacked ruthlessly on Facebook because she actually will say decent things about Trump. She's not a Trumper or whatever else, but she would bring up, okay, so if everybody spent so much time and energy attacking and hating on Trump, then how come with what's going on since Biden was elected, people still aren't speaking up about stuff not getting done and not being better? At least 40 comments. She eventually just deleted it and just sent out another, I'm still used to that, by the way, I'm not trying to offend anyone. So he deleted it, put out another post and just said, okay, I'm done. And then that was about a week ago. And still no posts or anything. It's like, damn, all right.
So, Mr. Jesse Law, and by the way, Law is a good name. I think we need more law and order within that Republican Party. You have anything more for?
No. Just I need to work on my pronouns for sure.
We appreciate you coming on the program and putting your platform out there. I'm sure that probably many of your opponents don't have that gusto to put their platform out there and put their face on camera and put their words and their face on camera so people can hold them accountable. A lot of people don't do that. That's why a lot of people don't like coming to the Veterans in Politics endorsement interview because they don't want to be on the record.
That's right.
But could you look into the camera and tell folks that might be on the fence about you? Yeah. Or that are so entwined on voting for your opponent because they're blinded. Could you tell them why they need to step up and come and vote for you and make you the Clark County Republican Party chairman for this election cycle?
Thank you, Steve.
And your point of contact.
So many and most of you know me, Jesse Law. And I don't believe that there's many or most of you who've had interactions with me where I've not actually been kind to you. I'm that person, actually. And if you think about me as a person, I'm a father. I'm a son of God. I have the frailties of being a human too. But I can tell you that I've been dedicated and committed to this thing as long or more than many of you. Not as long as others, but I am definitely sincere about this. And I believe it's pretty understood that this thing's going to require vision, patience, and good behavior. And that's what I want to do. I want to be, as a man, somebody who's proud of what his behavior is, of what his words are. And I do that while I'm on my knees. So, with that said, if you want a red wave next year, elect the guy that believes in you and elect the guy that's going to help train up this organization and make it the best organization it has been in 20 years. That's something that we will do together. And it's Tuesday, 7 p.m., Spring Valley High School.
That's when the election is?
Yeah.
Okay. Tuesday, 7 p.m., Spring Valley High School.
You got it.
You got an address for that?
3950 South Buffalo, and you can learn more about me. In fact, your other interviews about me, I've got 2 others at www.electjesselaw.com.
All right. Jesse Law, thank you so much for being on the program.
Hey, thank you.
And I wish you the most success and victory on Tuesday. Folks, that's Jesse Law. He is a candidate for the Republican Party chairman. We wish him victory and success. And I personally would love to see Jesse Law become the next party chairman, because I think that he has a whirlwind of vision and knowledge that the party truly, truly needs. I mean, I served on the party many years ago, and I think it's time that we have unity and end this infighting that you guys are so doggone focused on doing. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't unify the party if you keep pushing party members out the window. That's stupid. But anyways, this is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.